Welcome to Weekend Night Live, hosted by Samuel Jacobs Abbey, where we play music, talk shows, and interviews on Be Inspired Podcast Network. Stay tuned and keep your dial on www.beinspiredpodcast.com. Don't forget to stay connected, be inspired, be unique, and be different.
Tonight we have a very interesting topic. I've already seen several comments that have come in, and good morning to those of you down under. For those of you in Eastern Europe, some of you already waking up now. Good morning to you. Some going to sleep. In West Africa, some may already have got up in East Africa to listen to us. Those on the west coast of the U.S., for you, your afternoon is just beginning. So, thank you all for joining us. And tonight our topic is Who's the Boss? Power games and decision making in marriage. And there are a few questions we posed, as teasers to set us all thinking before this moment. Why is it that sometimes what starts as making a simple decision with a partner or spouse gets us so worked up with words getting out of control? How can we stay rational and hold our emotions in check when we feel strongly that our spouse or partner has the wrong viewpoint, is being difficult, or just doesn't get the point? And then, does postponing making a decision really help? We've heard about sleeping on it. Does it really help? And what if we have to decide on something right away? Who has the final say? Who should have the final say? So, if you are set, as I am set, here we go. On the outset, we need to establish that decision making involves choosing between possible solutions to any issue, problem, call, whatever you have. It means once you have to make a decision, it means there could be more than one solution. But also, when it comes to relationships, it means there's more than one person involved. And this is something that we also need to establish from the outset. It is not about one person. It is about one person. In a relationship, there's husband, there's wife, or at least the two partners we're talking about here. Whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, or fiancé, all of us must be involved. The two of us must be involved in the decision making. So it's not one person deciding. Even if you're deciding to go out of the relationship, somebody else is involved. Then also, we need to understand that we all make decisions all the time, all of us. Some of the decisions might be very simple, such as what shall we have for lunch? Or 7 o'clock for some people, what shall we have for dinner? For some, even this decision is not a simple one. And then there are those we call life-changing decisions, like where you want to study, what to study in college, for example. What job should I take? Should I make this career move? And then, of course, we're talking about relationships, interpersonal. We're also talking about who to marry. And then, how shall we conduct our marriage? All these are decisions we're all faced with, one point or the other. We must also say that we decide in different ways. Everyone makes decisions, but we do so in different ways. The two major ways you will find in the literature are that we make decisions either by intuition, some call it the gut feeling, they feel deeply, strongly about something, and that's intuition. I just sense, it should be this way, we should go. Intuition. Others do it by reasoning. Give me the information, give me the facts, give me the figures, give me the data, or just give me the info, and then I can decide. Some do that. So it's either by intuition, by reasoning. But there is a third one, which we don't think about often. It could be a combination of the two. We might start by reasoning, and then maybe there's a stalemate. Or at some point, in the discussion, you just feel strong, I think this is what we should do. I've heard, people say that a lot about usually a business proposal or even a marriage proposal. We often hear people say, at some point, I just felt he would come to propose, or I just knew she was interested in me. Intuition, gut feeling, that is also there. Now, here's the fun fact. As regards intuition, we should know that it is not limited to women. The people who think, women, they decide by intuition. This is not limited to women. Neither is reasoning only used by men. We hear people in our counseling work, you hear a man saying, I'm more rational. My wife is the emotional one. Intuition does not necessarily mean you're being emotional, by the way. And concerning intuition, here's how one writer puts it. Quote, intuition is actually a combination of past experience and your personal values. Interesting. It is worth taking your intuition into account when making a decision because it reflects your learning about life. It is, however, not always based on reality. Only your perceptions, many of which may have started in childhood and may not be very mature as a result. End quote. So, our experiences shape us and they determine how we act quite often. Even though some of us might think, we're so rational and all that, there's a lot that what we've gone through in life does in shaping how we even make decisions. It is therefore worth examining one's gut feeling closely, especially if you have a strong feeling against a particular course of action, to see if you can work out why. What's the reason behind my feeling this way? And also whether it's justified. As we go on, you'll see some of these things become clearer. Now, reasoning is, as I said, when we use the available information to make decisions. It usually has its roots in what we're presented with. The downside of reasoning is that it can ignore emotional aspects of the decision, such as when one person feels very strongly about it, And even though one person might say he or she is reasoning, their emotions can also affect what they say is their reason for a particular decision. And especially issues from the past can affect the way that a decision is implemented. So if, for example, I haven't used, money properly, and my wife is worried about me taking on a large sum of money for a particular project, well, she might say, I feel it's not right. But I might say, wait a minute, I've got everything worked out and I might have my business plan and everything. She might also begin to reason, wait a minute, it's not just she just feels, but based on what she has seen happen, yep, she's also got some facts that she can use in the decision. Now, before we go into another aspect of decision making, which we have in our title, because decisions tend to involve change, which we sometimes find difficult because it's doing things differently, it is helpful to share with each other how we would like to be involved in decision making, especially when you're in a relationship, especially when you're in a marriage. This is very important because you don't want to be sidelined, and if you don't want to be sidelined, then you better say so. For some people, they don't mind. Go ahead and take the decision. I don't mean go ahead with gritted teeth, but there are some people who are comfortable with the partner taking the decisions because it puts less responsibility on them, they think. It puts less pressure on them. So, here come in the power games. We call these games because any of us uses them at one point or other, and you don't have to use all. It can be one or a multiple of these games to try to win at decision making. You can put win in quotes, but it's a real win because we definitely want to win. I don't want my wife to win. I don't want my husband to win. My fiancé, nope. And so, as we share some of these games, you see how we subconsciously or deliberately come into use them when we have to make a decision. And you might see your own style in it. I think you will. And so for the purposes of our presentation and discussion today, we've classified these power games, as we call them, into two categories: aggressive actions and passive actions. So, when making a decision, here are some aggressive actions that one or sometimes both partners might use. Shouting starts with the voices going higher and higher, and soon they're shouting at each other, or one person is shouting at the other during a discussion about a decision. Another aggressive action is bullying, trying to coerce the other person to accept your viewpoint, so that is what becomes the decision. And I'll say a worse form of bullying is threatening. Well, if this is what you're going, go ahead. When you come home and I'm not here, don't blame me. Now, wait a minute. We're deciding on something. Now it's going to be leaving home, or, when you come home and there's no food, well, then you will know, that I'm serious. These are things that we do. So what do you want? You don't want the person to decide the way or decide in a way that would not favor your position so they can have food to eat? How about anger? Shouting is not necessarily anger, but sometimes very often anger is accompanied by shouting. And you can add other things like, threatening or pounding, furniture or slamming doors, things like that. In some cases, it leads to physical violence, but just anger. And anger, can create fear. And it can cause the person to back down. But does that mean they're really on board with the decision, or they're giving in so, as we often hear in our work, there will be peace? And is there really peace? For some people, the aggressive action they use is arguing. They will not stop arguing. They will argue whatever issue it is to death. Whatever viewpoint you bring up, no, they have a contrary view. And as one young man asked this once, does every decision have to end in an argument? I'm just tired. And this couple were planning their wedding. She just told the lady, you go ahead and decide. If I don't show up, it's not my wedding. Wait a minute. So there's a veil, there's a threat in there, not a veil, the real one in there. But that was his reaction to, as he put it, the incessant arguing from his fiancée. Some people simply argue just to be different. And sometimes when you talk with a couple, you can sense there is some spite. Maybe this is a way the spouse is trying to get the attention of the other one. Maybe this is the way, he will know that he can't have his way. Me too. I have a mouth. I can talk. I can't beat him at anything else, but I can beat him with my mouth. And then sometimes there is just plain belligerence. Belligerence is resisting compromise or alternate views. It's my way or no way. And a belligerent person is one who wages war. As a pastor friend of ours said, some people are walking civil war. Whatever decision there is to be taken, it's like, okay, council of war. They're ready to fight. And what we found is that quite often there are underlying issues. It is not that the person is simply a warlike person, but there are underlying issues. Sometimes doesn't have anything to do with the fiancé. It might be internal to the person who's so belligerent. And quite often we have been able to trace that to childhood experiences, or sometimes youthful experiences, before they've got into adulthood or early adulthood, things they've gone through. So they're always on edge. And this can happen to both men and women. So this is not a man thing. All these things we're saying, we've seen them in both men and women. So these are just for the aggressive actions. Shouting, bullying, threatening, anger, arguing just to be different, and then being belligerent, resisting compromise or alternate views. How about the passive actions? Passive actions include silence. Or ignoring. Honey, we have to decide this and this. I hear. That's the end of it. For some people, passive actions plays out in delaying taking the decision. Oh, when I come from work, I'm so busy now, I have to finish this paper. Can we talk about it tomorrow? Let's see. Let's make it Tuesday. I think Tuesday will be better, So we delay the issue because we can sense it may not be going our way. The decision may not be going our way. For some, passive action can be crying. Instead of dealing with the issue, we cry our way into the decision. It can be effective only to a certain point. First of all, if your partner responds positively to crying. Some people react negatively or respond negatively to crying. If you cry, you make matters worse. Some, if you cry, they let you have your way. And people who use crying usually know, it touches the heart of their partner, or it causes their partner to change tack. So, okay, let's do it your way. And that's very immature. But we will not judge that for now. But it's when we say immature, it's because it does not really help the couple to grow and to systematically or realistically deal with issues. For some people, passive action plays out in withholding vital information. You just don't tell. Hide the receipts. Grab the statements in the mail before your spouse comes home. So these are forms of deception, lying, falsehood when it comes to issues of truth, honesty, and integrity. Withholding vital information. You say some, but not all. So the decision is only being taken on the facts that are available. And then later on, you release something more. You know, that's not helpful. That's not helpful. So that's something we need also to think about. You know, that's really important. And then we also have some who use things like withdrawal. For some, they can withdraw food, as I said earlier, it can be money, it can be helping around the house, etc. You know, some withdraw sex, and that's a way they're punishing or trying to gain the attention of the spouse. Now, these are ways that people use, so we're just laying them out so we see this is how people are behaving. Does it make it right? No, it doesn't make it right. But what it does is that it doesn't help the relationship to progress. And then another passive action, some might say passive aggressive, but it's conceit, which we, as you may have heard us say before, is a cousin of pride. A conceited person says, I know I'm always right. I'm not wrong. And he knows it. I'm right. You know, she knows it. I'm always right. Always? Wow. Or as somebody said, oh, my husband knows I have better ideas than him. We've heard some men also say, what does she have to contribute to the decision? I know this area far better than she does. So as you can already be thinking about, at any time, any of us can be employing any of these power games. You know, we call them power games because we use them to cause our partner to decide in our favor or to allow us to have our way. So at any time and on any issue, a partner can use any of these games to get their way, especially when a decision is on hand. Now, apart from these, we also would like to draw attention to outside influence. Outside influence, that is family, both sides, yes, both sides, sometimes four sides, because you've got the man has, you know, his father's side, his mother's side, the woman has his her father's side, her mother's side. All of them are interested in some decision. Where are they going to have the wedding? Should it be in church? Should it be at the hotel? Should it be at the beach? Big thing. Everybody is involved. Sometimes the outside influence can be children. Our own children, for that matter. For others, it can be the pastor. Could be religious leaders or respected elders who may not even be connected with the family, with the couple, but they're respected in society. Now, outside influence can also play out in three main ways. You know, this has to be, and the way it comes into the way we make decisions is that we may actually be dealing with a previous experience, you see. So you ask your spouse to share the password to their phone. Wait a minute. They're dealing with past experience, so nope, I'm not going to let her see. No, I'm not going to share with him because in a previous relationship that created some other problems, you see. It could be even the way you saw your parents make decisions. because of what you saw, your dad trampling over your mom, or your mom ignoring your father, for example. No way. I'm not going to allow somebody to do this to me. If you're a guy, what? There's no way I'm going to allow any woman to do this with me. So from the get-go, you are up in arms on any issue with your lady friend. Now, outside influence also can cause us to fly someone else's flag, as we often say. Two people are deciding on something, but either person has talked with other people. They've collected ideas from them. Two people come to decide, well, whose idea is it anyway? Are they talking about their own ideas, or they're talking about other people's ideas? And often the pressure is, if I don't do what my dad says, what my mom says, what my uncle says, what my big sister or big brother say, then I have failed the family. So we fly in the family flag, or the friend's flag, or the pastor's flag, or maybe even your church's flag. What about your partner? And then, for many, many couples, is the reality of fallout from previous decision making. We've heard people say, enough of me losing. It's my turn to win. I'm not giving in to you. There's somebody say, I've sacrificed or suppressed my wishes long enough. It's time for me to take a stand. Or someone also has said, as for this one, I won't change my mind. So, all these come to affect the way we make decisions. See why we're calling them power games? It's my way or not the highway. I'm sticking with you. I'm not leaving this marriage. I'm not leaving this relationship. But whether you like it or yes, as a friend of ours says. So, what can we then do? Each partner needs to be committed to the decision personally, whatever we're going to decide. This is very important, because if we don't do that, then we are actually forfeiting the opportunity, first of all, to be able to contribute effectively to what will affect us. Yes, because if you're in a relationship, whatever decision is taken will affect you. And then we also forfeit the opportunity to persuade or convince our partner of what could be much better ideas than they're offering. And yes, we do understand. If the person has been difficult in the past, you feel, well, what's the bother? Just go ahead. But here's the trouble. When we say go ahead and we don't want to be part of it, when we leave the decision to our partner, then we should be ready not to complain later on. We will be bound by that decision. So, now we want to make a decision. What are we going to do? Before we push for a particular stand or viewpoint on a decision, we need to ensure that we are prepared and able to get our partner to agree with us. This is important. Don't just say, and you have to accept what I'm saying. I don't know why you're saying so. Why should I agree? So here are some problems that can prevent that. Apart from the power games, those become our framework. But sometimes we don't have enough information. See, when we don't have enough information, it can feel like we're making a decision blindly. No basis. So, it's important to sometimes take the time to get the information. We ask each other. That's the simplest way. So will we be forthcoming to each other, or we're going to hedge? Remember the power game, withholding? Yeah. That's important. And then, what do we need to know to help us make the right decision? Or at least to contribute effectively to make this decision. So sometimes not enough information, but sometimes there's too much information. This is the opposite of that one. you know. But it does happen because you might have so much information. And this is the trouble when the two people, instead of talking to each other and sharing their own ideas, starts the process of making a decision by talking to everyone else except the persons who will be most, or person who will be most affected by the decision, your partner, your spouse. So we're talking to all kinds of people except the person who I will be deciding with. But sometimes, we've heard people say, well, I wanted to find out more. I'm learning about this or that. But sometimes it's actually a delay tactic, you know. And if it prolongs, we have to remember that sometimes a decision, any decision, is better than none. Why do we say so? Because it's better to make a mistake and learn from it than to leave a matter hanging, which can have or leave both partners frustrated. You know. The third way problem that could arise is that sometimes there are too many people. As I said, this is linked with too much information, too many people. Let's give some examples. Should we have a birthday party for our 1-year-old? How many people should we invite to our wedding? Where should we live after marriage? Two people talk about it, but then you're talking to everybody else. Should we buy a house or rent? Should we buy a car, new or used? Well, everyone has their own views and their own values, but do their values actually sync with your own values? You, as in the two people, husband and wife, partners in a relationship, it's important to know what those views are and why. But perhaps the most important thing we would like you to take away from this discussion is that a couple, the two people, need to take responsibility for making a decision. This should not be left to one person. Some of you already, I can hear some of you saying, but what about the man who is the head? Don't worry, we're coming there. Another problem that often arises, we call vested interest, selfishness. Vested interest can be from the individuals, or again, it can be from external parties. But the trouble is, when these interests are not openly expressed, they can hinder our decision making. You see, because when the interests are not openly expressed, they're in our minds. They're keeping them, and it's hard to identify them. Our partner might never know why we're holding on to a particular decision or a particular viewpoint, and so they can't address it. Maybe it's some worry you have. Maybe it's a concern, or maybe it's a warning somebody has given you. Be careful about opening a joint account with your spouse, because some people have done that and the partner has emptied the bank account. But you're not saying it. But here is your spouse saying, I would like us to open a joint account. And then what do? Okay, let's see, what power game can we use here? Passive, delay. Oh, yes. Okay, okay, let's do it at the weekend. Weekend comes, I have so many things. We can't go to the bank today. Okay, next week, I'll have off. And it never happens. In such cases, questions should be two key questions. Each partner needs to consider, whose decision is this? Am I considering our joint needs and interests, or am I just repeating or defending what I have heard from others? You see. And sometimes having an external person work with, both of you can help unravel some of these covered, I won't say hidden, but covered interests, you see. And then perhaps one that can be so well covered and yet play out so strongly in our decision making is an emotional attachment. Sometimes we may be so emotionally attached to the decision that it clouds our reasoning. And I'm not talking about intuition. We just are so emotionally attached. Here, for example, if a couple live near one set of in-laws, when a partner gets a job offer that will entail them moving to another city, the partner whose people might be so emotionally attached to being in the area and being close family that the person will oppose the possible move, however wonderful the career move might be. Sometimes it's not wanting to move because you're so emotionally attached to a church, or your friends, or could even be their own jobs that they have in the place where they're living, However, sometimes the person who is behaving this way may not even realize that that's what they're doing, that this emotional attachment is what is driving the behavior in terms of making a decision. Now, for some of us, we're often very attached to what we know best. It's natural, such as the interpersonal relationships we experienced in a home when we were growing up, or perhaps while we were living with a couple we respect. Those are the marriages we know best. And without learning anything different, those might be the standard for us. So, for some people, for someone, the father decided everything. What to eat, where to go to school, when to do this or that, all of it, father decided. For another, could be a single mother who took all the decisions. Now think, somebody who had the father decide everything. Let's say a man marries a woman who was raised by a single mother who took all the decisions. Who's going to decide? So sometimes the emotional attachment is because the idea we're trying to get a partner to agree to is from someone very close to us, such as a beloved relative or highly respected leader, perhaps our pastor. And it becomes difficult for us, to go against that because, we love this person, so no. But recognizing these differences and influences can help us to relate better to our partners when making decisions. This is why we need to share some of these things, And then we all need to remember that behaving differently from what we have always known is not a betrayal of who has given us the information or idea. In fact, it is a sign of maturing and independence. It is a sign of maturing and independence. If you get all the information you can get from all the people you can respect, however high, and yet you are able to, and then you are able with your partner to come to a decision that suits both of you, which may be contrary to what you may have been advised from someone you respect so highly, it doesn't mean you betrayed them. You are exercising your mind. And remember, you are in the relationship, not the person who gave you the information. This is critical. So what can we do to help us make decisions better? We came up with these points based on an article by Phoebe Waller entitled 7 Things to Consider Before You Make a Big Decision. So these are not exactly what she wrote, but we've adapted these from that because it gives a good framework. So first of all, ask yourself what you really want. Ask yourself what you really want. A few questions to get. Is this your idea or what someone suggested you should do? The clearer the desire, the more likely your brain will stay engaged. You will be speaking your mind, just as we said a while ago, and not somebody else's mind. Second, ask for advice. Yes, it does help. We don't know everything. That's why any one of us can learn. And we ask for advice not only from our friends who will tell us what we want or support us, but let's also look for objective and experienced people, those who have successfully dealt with similar decisions. Again, beware of making someone's experience the only way possible. This is because your relationship, your marriage, is not, in caps, N-O-T, not the same as theirs. In any case, you and your partner, you and your spouse are different from the persons or couple whose advice you want to follow. Show that you are mature and have an independent mind. Third, weigh your motives. Now, this is tough. You can see we're talking about the individual here, right? Because when the individual has it set right and the other person is also, has the mindset right, it makes for better decision making. So, question your motives. Are you being honest with the ideas you are expressing, or you just want to oppose your partner? Power game. Are you disinterested or just being difficult because it doesn't concern your people? Withdrawing. Power game. When I say your people, your family, could be extended family, could be your friends, sometimes even your church, members or colleagues. So we said, ask yourself what you really want, ask for advice, question your motives. The fourth thing to consider is weigh the pros and cons. What's the plus and minus? Consider seriously your partner's view or idea. Two heads, the saying goes, are better than one. Is there something in your partner's view or ideas that could form part of the decision? Sometimes it's not only everything from one person. It might be 2 or 3 points from one from the other. Could be 50-50, could be 70-30%, whichever way it is. Is there something in your partner's view or ideas that could form part of the decision? The fifth is look at the potential choices without bias. Part of weighing the pros and cons. But when we say look at the potential choices, you weigh the pros and cons. Now you have to decide. If we decide on A, this will be the consequences. If you decide on B, this will be the consequences. But this can be really difficult for us to choose now when we're so emotionally wrapped up in the issue. And at this point, if we have doubts that it's the right thing to do, such as the example I gave first, entrusting your spouse with money for a project, based on bad experience, then speak up, say so. And perhaps, maybe you're thinking, it could, this plan could work, but because of what he did before, because of what she did before, so what do you do now? You discuss ways to prevent another failure. That becomes our discussion point. So you have a good idea, but I'm worried, last time this is what happened. How can we prevent our money from going down the drain again? And then remember, we're putting our heads together. We're not fighting each other. Next point, ask yourself if you'll be hurting yourself or others with the decision. Some consequences may be lifelong. So if we're concerned about finance, for example, or breaking off a relationship or marriage, these are lifelong things, So let's check how we're going to do it. Oh, I'm deciding I'm only going to text her, I'm leaving her. Wow. This is after you've gone home, met her folks, and, you've introduced her to your folks. Now you're breaking up by text message. We have to think in terms of these. Ask yourself whether you'll be hurting yourself or others with the decision. And then finally, how does this decision advance the way we want our life to be? Now you see how we've gone from the individual to the we. How will this decision affect the way we want our life to be? How will life be without the decision going my way? The focus here is we, not me. We, not me. Us. not I. Now, I remember reading from, we were reading, Vivian and I, from some of the comments that were sent in earlier discussion going on the Be Inspired platform, very animated discussions, and we silently read everything, and we could see people have real strong views about decision making. So what? And some ask, will there be any religious angle? Well, we usually have the Christian angle. So we will answer the question: what does the Bible say? The Bible doesn't say who should decide. By the way, one thing you will find going right through the Bible is how we should do. We should make decisions. And so here are a few verses that we will share with you, on how to make decisions. You can take them down or listen to this later as Vivian reads them.
Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths. Then James chapter 1 verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. That is James chapter 1 verse 5. Then we have James chapter 3 verse 17. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. James chapter 3 verse 17. Then we have Jeremiah chapter 33 verse 3. Jeremiah chapter 33 verse 3. Call to me and I will answer you, and will tell you great and hidden things that you have not known. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 1, and then verse 13 to 15. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 1, and then verse 13 to 15. Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. When wickedness comes, contempt comes also, and with dishonor comes disgrace. The words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook. If one gives an answer before he hears, it is his folly and shame. A man's spirit will endure sickness, but a crushed spirit who can bear? An intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. Then Psalm 32 verse 8. Psalm 32 verse 8. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Amen.
And thank you so much, my bride of 36 years and counting. In summary, both partners need to learn the different ways either person makes decisions. Is it by intuition? Is it by gut feeling? Or a combination of both? It's also important that partners share and discuss experiences that have shaped the way they make decisions. It's easy for us to look down on how our partner makes decisions and think ours is the best. But it's working for them. Maybe they use the same one even in deciding they should be with you. So if they were wrong, hello. Then seek advice from trusted people, yes, because we don't have all the wisdom. But it's even more important sometimes, we think, to listen to and learn from each other. The two of us in the relationship who will be most affected by the decision we take. And then, remember, nothing beats God's wisdom, as we've heard from some of the Bible verses. And here are just a few more to guide us as we go into discussion. From the letter of James, chapter 1, verses 19 and 20, we learn, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. And then, 1 Corinthians 10:31, one of our favorite verses. So whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do all to the glory of God. You can put in, so whether you eat or drink, or make decisions, do it all to the glory of God. Proverbs 16, verse 9 states, the heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. This is why it makes sense to talk to God about what we want to do and not think our human minds know everything. We can understand our partner, easily. Finally, you've heard us use this verse, this passage before. Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4. Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4 remind us, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. Especially if we're married, let us approach making decisions as a team. Two people united in purpose. And so as we conclude, we'll say, may we all rely on God's wisdom for our decisions and the way we make them to enable us to draw closer to each other and strengthen our relationships and marriage. Thank you so much. I'm handing you over to Sam in the studio and then John online to take us through our time of questions. God bless you all and thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Crabbe, for such a thorough and detailed lecture on marriages. And folks from around the world, you are on Be Inspired Radio now, and I am sure all your questions are in, and so we will ask them accordingly, and you can be assured that you get very good responses. John, please prompt me each time you have a question to ask, so I can give you the platform as well. So quickly, first question that came in from from Laos, coming from Laos, and he says that money problem is one of the well-known reasons why married couples get divorced. I know you touched on it briefly with regards to decision making when it comes to finances. I personally do not see why I should have a joint account with my wife, because I'm unable to give her some surprises and she get to know everything that I have. And on few occasions that I have put her on an account, she has either used the money to pay off her credit cards and create more problem for me. So I decided that it's better that way, because I'm a very good manager of money than her. Why should you disagree with me, if you may?
I'm surprised to say I disagree with. I didn't say you have to have a joint account. I'm only saying in case you decided to do so, or a couple, one partner wanted to do so, and the other had some misgivings, just like you have so wonderfully laid out, then you have to say it. In this case, you have to let the lady know. Well, yeah, the surprise part, okay, that's easily understand. But you have to let her know that, honey, it's tough for me to do this because, as we said, even in our presentation, past experience, the times I have done so, the money has evaporated. We do have one, but doesn't mean others must do exactly what we do. We think it's helpful to us, and it's helped us in our 36 plus years. For some people, they've had problems, but they're not us. And whatever has created those problems needs to be discussed.
Great, good answer. And this is coming from Kumasi in Accra, in Ghana, and it says that thank you. I'm always excited and always ready to listen to both of you each time you come on this show. Today, it's going to be more of who actually is the boss, because from listening to you, I don't seem to understand who actually is the boss. Didn't the Bible says that the man is the head of the home? So the man is the boss. So is there anything wrong with that?
Go ahead.
Okay. When it comes to who is the head of the home, yes, the man is the head of the home. The man is the head. Yes, we agree to that. But when it comes to decision making
In marriage.
or anywhere, being the head doesn't mean you have it all. It does not mean that you have the best idea, you can, make the best decisions. You are a team. We are a team. We work together. So you listen to each other. And in every marriage, in every home, there are areas where the man is an expert and there are areas where the woman is an expert. So you know yourselves. So where you know that both of you know that you are the expert, you will discuss, you know that your wife will listen to you. Where you know your wife is the expert, you will discuss, and you know you have to lean towards your wife, listening to your wife. You listen, take the decision. It doesn't mean it's your wife's decision. It will still be your decision. The fact that you listened to your wife and took what she brought in doesn't mean that it's become her decision. But if we fight about, I am the boss, the man says that he is the head, so he should take all decisions. I'm sorry to say sometimes the man can also make foolish decisions and put them in the hole.
Because we're human.
So you just have to listen to each other. We are a team. And we agree that the man is the head of the home. The Bible says the man is the head, as Christ is the head of the church. We agree to that. But you listen to your wife also. After all, Christ listens to us when we pray. When we ask him things, he listens to us and does what we want, sometimes what we want him to do for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's
go to United Kingdom, and the question here is that so
kindly check your voice breaking again.
Okay.
So please start.
Sure. So this is coming from the United Kingdom, and the question that is coming from the UK is that, so what do you do when you agreed on a way to make decisions at home, and yet the other partner do not conform to the decision? How do you handle it without creating family crisis?
We get back to the drawing board. We have to talk. And both, we first, we need to find out why the partner is not playing their part. What is preventing the person from playing their part? And sometimes we said, even to ourselves, what can I do to help you? For a couple where it had to be, wasn't helping around, it was even deciding to go out or to do something different. They agreed, okay, let's keep a calendar. At one point, one of them, the person keeping the calendar said, why do I have to keep a calendar? This is something both of us should remember, you see. So it's important for both of us to be vested in the decision, and once we have taken a decision, one of the things we need to do is to review the decision after a while. Review doesn't mean you change it. It only means you see how it's working or not working. You see, if it's working well, great. Can you improve what you're doing? Great. If it's not working, why isn't it working? And what can you, plural, do? It's not only, if you did the dishes on your days, everything would be fine, But maybe there's some reason why. Why aren't you doing it? This is important to talk about it.
One of the ways you build trust and confidence in each other is when you take decisions and you stick to it. When you take decisions and one person is not sticking to that decision and does something else, you are just eroding all the trust and confidence from your partner. They will not trust you. They will not have any confidence in you. So they may be hiding things and not telling you anything. So if you want to build trust and confidence in your marriage, take decisions together and stick to it. If the decision is taken and you are not happy with something, let your partner know and talk about it, rather than you deciding to be passive and maybe not do it or anything. You do not build trust, and it does not help you in the marriage. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Another question, it's coming from Kenya, and and it says that, well, decision making, it's a very difficult one to make, whether in marriage, whether in office, or whether even on social ground. It's always difficult because the problem is that making a decision is not as difficult as ensuring that there's a sustainability to that decision that was made. My question to you is that, can you please share some few strategic steps that will help people to sustain the decision that they both agreed on?
Okay, one of the things, this is good. This is good, and Vivian was speaking to that, a few moments ago. Probably the key is stick to it. Once you've agreed we're going to go forward, stick to it. If you're not going to do it, let's talk about it now. But once you've agreed, we stick to it. In carrying out the decision, you might find maybe you need your partner's help. Okay? If so, then bring it up. Don't wait to create a crisis. Let's say it's paying the mortgage and you've decided we're going to pay the mortgage from the lady's salary, or the man's salary, whoever's salary, If it's going to be, if you start implementing it and it's difficult, bring it up. Don't, cut paying the mortgage. In other words, don't default to create a bigger problem, you see. But bring it up. We decided to do this. I believed I could do it, but here are the circumstances. My hours have been cut back, and so I'm in a financial bind. Bring it up. And so, I might need some help from your side, to be able to make it the team. So that's one. If there is any issue that will hinder the implementation of the decision, bring it up quickly. Don't let it hang and create a bigger problem or create a crisis. Then another thing is, do not vary the decision after you have shared the decision with other people, especially friends. In fact, anybody. I'm not even going to say especially. anyone, because this is a decision of you and your partner, you and your spouse. You've decided. If you think the decision should be changed because you talked to somebody, you shared it with somebody, and they said, hey, if you do this, you are dead. Or, no way, it's not going to work. No, bring it back to your partner, your spouse. Don't change it unilaterally. Especially for my colleagues, the men, sometimes we think because we are the head, we can change a decision we have agreed with our spouse, with our wives, just like that. No. It is unhelpful, and as Vivian rightly said, it undermines trust. And so next time you want to take a decision, why should she contribute to it? She might say, go ahead and decide. And then say, oh, my wife is not cooperative. No, you have sown the seeds for that to happen.
And it can also be the man who decides to be passive, because when anything he says, you, the woman, you decide to do what you want anyway. Mm-hmm. So it gets to the point where the man will not say anything. He won't even say, go ahead. He just looks at you, do what you want to do. And then what you tell people is, my husband doesn't do anything. He doesn't take any decision. The problem is you. You have made him so. So think about it. When you take decisions together, seek, to listen to both, listen to your wife, listen to your husband, and when you take the decision, stick to it. The implementation is very important. You can decide, both of you, who is going to implement it, or how am I going to help you implement it, and then you do it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope these tips help. These practical tips help. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this is a question. Well, I don't know if it's a question or a contribution, but it came from Boston, Massachusetts, and it says that women are terrible in respecting their husbands, and men are terrible in leaving their wives. Those are two weaknesses we each need to grow in. And then, intuitively, women are good lovers of their husband, and men are good at respecting their wives. Those are the strengths we need to live in as well. And so this is just I don't know if it's a question or a contribution, but that is somebody else's thought, and I felt I need to share to see if it's something you think a person is making.
Well, since they're not decisions, but if they are decisions in the person's mind, well, we will be wary of making such sweeping statements. Men are terrible at loving their wives. Women are terrible at respecting their husbands. We don't subscribe to such sweeping statements. There may be generalities, but we wouldn't do so. The reason is, like we said, these are the things that influence the way we make decisions. And if this person, for example, thinks men are terrible at loving their wives and happens to be a woman, just imagine how that would be influencing a discussion with the husband about doing something that for him might be romantic. She may just be shooting it down because in her mind, men are terrible at showing love to their wives. So let's be careful about buying into such sweeping statements, because they do affect the way we make decisions or contribute to the decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is in the city of Woodbridge in the United States. And it says that, well, my husband tells me all the time that whatever his mother settled on becomes the decision for us. Otherwise, my husband discusses everything of our marriage with his mom. And I despised it. I've talked about it many times. It hasn't stopped. And so, in order to bring peace at home, I just said okay to everything he says. Am I just being careless by not standing up to, or in the name of peace, am I doing the right thing?
I think your question, your answer is in your question. You are being careless, and clearly you're saying okay, you really don't mean it. And here's a phrase we often come across. I think I even mentioned it in the presentation. For the sake of peace, to bring peace at home. Obviously, so speak up. And you say you've mentioned it several times. He still does it. Here's where you need some outside intervention. You do need to talk with a counselor. And gentlemen, my brothers, it's easy to talk to a mother, even another woman, married woman, we will say older married woman, or even a Christian sister about something, or even our own female siblings about something in relation to a wife or a partner. Now, you might think, they're giving you all the wonderful advice, they are on your side, but my brother, you are immature. I have to say it straight. You have to learn to take your own decisions. And don't think that they respect you. They don't. They are manipulating you. They are pulling the strings in your life, not just your life, in your marriage. They are running your marriage, not you. So my brothers, from another brother, grow up, man up, and make your own decisions. And for the women,
it is interesting. No, I still want to talk about the man thing first. It's interesting how you will not listen to your wife, but you are listening to your mother. It could even be your auntie or your sisters or another married woman who you think is older than your wife, and so their ideas are better than your wife. You are being manipulated by other women, unfortunately. How about listening to the woman you are with in your own home and let both of you take decisions together? People can give you ideas, but if you insist, for example, in saying that your mother's ideas are better than your wife's, it's a pity. It's a pity that you are doing that. And then for my sister, don't resign to the fact that, well, you do it anyway, so just do it. You are not happy with it. Continue to let him know. But I have a weapon which I tell the women all the time. You have it. If you are a Christian, go on your knees. Sever that relationship between the man and the mother. That manipulatory relationship of how the mother is manipulating the man. Or if it is any other person who you feel is manipulating your husband to take decisions and he's not listening to you, take it to the Lord in prayer. God is the one who brought you together. And he said that two shall be one. Tell God, we are not being one. My husband is not cooperating in these things. Handle the situation for me. God handles it better than you can do it. If you take the decision, sometimes you can do some things. If you do it in your own power, it doesn't get anywhere. Give it to God. Give it to God. Go on your knees. Tell God about He will do it for you.
And for the moms who are listening on the line, allow your son who is married to make his own decision. You allowed him to get married to the woman. So allow them to make their own decision. Can you imagine if your husband's mother, your mother-in-law, were making the decisions in your home? Would you like it? Or maybe they did it for you, so you are paying back somebody's daughter. That can't be right. If you didn't like it or wouldn't like that, why do it to somebody else? And let me also put the shoe on the other foot. Sometimes it's not the men talking to their mothers. The men can talk to their fathers too. Sometimes it's the women talking to their mothers and bringing whatever the mother says into the marriage. Sometimes it can be the man and his father, or the woman and her father. Let's make this our decision, not other people's decisions. Remember what we said about flying the family flag? Is it your decision or your family's decision? And whose marriage is it anyway? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is coming from Nigeria, and it says that I I was raised up to in a Christian home, and also to understand that if you spare the child, you spoil the child, and so I'm a strong believer of spanking the child. My wife always have an issue with the way I control or manage the children, and each time the children factors becomes a problem in our marriage. Can you please suggest some ideas by which we can raise our children together in our decision making, because it looks like at all times we have a conflict when it comes to decision making with regards to our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, let me, this spanking can be a problem. Some people, believe spanking is great. Some people think it's not. Some people say psychologically it destroys the children. Some people say psychologically it helps them become smart. There are all kinds of views. But let's focus on your marriage. It's a problem. So what will you do? Is so the question I will ask to begin the answer is this. Is spanking the only form of discipline you use? That might be something to think about. Are there other forms of discipline you can use? That might be something you can discuss with your wife. It might be withdrawing some privilege, like saying, they won't go out to play with their friends, or some other form of discipline, so that spanking is not the only. Yes, you can have spanking if you want, but if it's the only thing whatever the children do, spank. Whatever it is, spank. That could be a real issue, and you can reserve spanking for some categories of wrong behavior, let's say. So that's something to discuss with your wife. If she doesn't want any form of discipline, then that is a more serious issue. But if it's simply to be able to, discipline the children using other forms of discipline, then discuss, come up with certain ideas so that you can implement them together. And another thing to be careful about is undermining each other in this regard. Talk about it behind closed doors. Don't be jumping in front of each other. I won't let you spank my child. Wait, so for me, it's not my child. Things like that. Let's be careful. Or when one person prescribes one form of punishment, the other person changes it. Let's be very careful about that. Again, it undermines trust. And even more than, in addition to trust, it can also undermine respect. Not only from one spouse to the other, even from the children to both spouses. This is what many people don't realize. In the end, the children will not respect both father or mother, not only the father. So let's keep that in mind. Talk about, the discipline, agree, and then, as we said earlier, implement them and then see what happens. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is also coming from Cape Coast, I think Pedu area in Cape Coast. And this individual said that, so what is the role of a pastor in the family decision making? Because my wife and I will agree on something that we think is a workable plan. As soon as my wife discusses that with her pastor, the decision changes. and this is very frustrating. At one point, I was so pissed off, and I asked my wife, "Is the pastor more important than me?" Of course, I went further to ask God for forgiveness if I spoke wrongly about a man of God. But it's sometimes very frustrating how pastors get involved in family decision making. What would be your recommendation? Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a very sensitive issue. There are many pastors. We have many pastor friends. And this is one of the questions where we say it depends on what you're discussing or what you are deciding. Is it something to do with, that involves the church, for example, and for which the pastor has to be involved in it? Or is it, let's say, where your child goes to school, which is your prerogative? And really, I would put it bluntly, pastor has no business coming to help you decide where your child should go to school unless he's providing external advice, in which case it's advice and not a directive to you. I think sometimes the way, and let me speak more directly to my Christian friends. Sometimes we have given pastors that, position to tell us what to do. And so we believe strongly, it's a sign of immaturity on our part. And also, it's a way we do not take responsibility for what we should do. It's very easy for us to say, well, pastor said.
And then blame pastor when it doesn't go right.
It's a very lazy way of decision making. We have to take responsibility for the decisions. If we need pastor's prayer support, he supports us in prayer to decide. It's very different from having the pastor tell us what to do. And, our pastor friends on the line, I'm sure they will agree that they would not want another pastor telling their wives what to do. So, much as they do have spiritual oversight, that is not the same as marriage oversight. I'm sorry, but I have to say it this way. Spiritual oversight does not mean oversight over my marriage. No. You can guide me in the word of God, but God will hold me responsible for my marriage, not my pastor. And so I have to take that responsibility, and every one of us has to do that. And so, to our brother in Pedu, or our brother who asked the question, what's the role of the pastor? I would say guidance and prayer support. If he has experience in on certain decisions based on what he's seen other couples do or decide, and he's seen the consequences, as pastor, he can share those experiences. And if there's a pastor or the pastors on the line who would want to chip in, I think this is important. We have to free our people to make their decisions rather than decide for them, because then they don't own the decisions and they will not be responsible for them. It's very easy for a woman to say, my pastor said I should do this or I should not do that. And who is she married to anyway? Who will have to bear the effect or consequences of that decision? So let's be very careful in what we speak about people's lives and the decisions they have to take. This is what we feel. And we do not see, scriptural support for pastors telling people what to do in their marriages, except God has given them a definite word. On this particular issue, this is what you will do. In which case, as we see in the scriptures, the people themselves will know that this is a word from God. So that's this issue. Thank you. But very, very important. Very important. Keep talking as a couple and let your wife realize what is happening is undermining the relationship. Sometimes it's the husband. What's happening is undermining our relationship. I feel like I have no part in our decision making. And we have actually had people say, don't go and live with your pastor, or go and have him, take care of you, things like that, which, as we said earlier, that becomes a power game. Threatening, things like that, it's not healthy to the relationship. It's not healthy, and we shouldn't encourage it. And pastors, when people come to you wanting you to tell them what to do, please, 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 let's give guidance rather than directives and have them own the decision. I think this is key. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. And this one is coming from Manassas in Virginia, and he says that, well,
breaking again, please restart.
All right, so this is coming from the city of Manassas in Virginia, and he says that my husband and my husband and I have had so many differences when it comes to decision making in the area of sex in our marriage. When I suggest new style or new innovations in our marital home, my husband considers me to be unholy and impure, and this has become a bigger problem for me because then it have to be the same way all the time. Now, what do I do, and how do I convince my husband that this is part of marriage and we need to bring innovation even into our sexual life? Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is cuts to why we are together, and it might actually be, maybe you should ask him why he considers it unholy. It may be that for him sex is dirty, or sex is something that already is unholy, so all of these things you are suggesting, are going to make him even more unholy, and that he has sex because it's part of marriage. So it might be good to ask him why he thinks of it this way, and whether he thinks it should only be him who should suggest. But like you said, it's always one way. Perhaps what you could also let him realize is that if the one way, I'm just saying, if the one way has become boring, then say so. You see, don't just say it's one way, but also say, I would like, maybe you've already said that, I would like us to try these other styles, and he's resisting. Sometimes or in this case, that's where you might need someone, some outside, help, also, so that he realizes it's okay. I've known some men who think it's wrong for the wife to suggest any style, or move to practice during making love. It should be the man. But hey, this is something we share. My brother, if you are listening, relax, allow, and let the lady give you ideas. And I'm almost certain you will enjoy more than the one way you are having now.
He just needs a little counseling. So maybe you should seek counseling. You should both seek counseling. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this one is coming from California. I think it's more of a contribution. It says, in most successful marriages, there is no boss syndrome. Although there is a family leader who must be respected, the home works like a team supporting each other in their strength and being honest about their shortfalls. So this is from California. It's just a contribution. I don't know if you want to agree with him or not.
Hold on, Sammy. I think I'm not sure why, but sometimes we can't hear what you're saying properly at all.
Oh, okay. Is it better now? Is it
just
better?
Slightly. You are a little louder, but sometimes it just tapers off. We can't even hear the end of some of the words.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So it's a contribution coming from California, and it says, in most successful marriages, there is no boss syndrome. Although there is a family leader who must be respected, the home works like a team supporting each other in their strength and being honest about their shortcomings. Yeah, it's more
We
of a
say amen to that.
yeah,
Yes, we say amen to that. Yeah.
very good.
Wonderful contribution.
It's not about who is the boss and whose idea is taken. We are a team and we're working together. We deal with the shortcomings together and we celebrate the victories also together. Thank you.
Thank you. Uh, there's one more question coming from Guinea, in Conakry, and it says that thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing these wonderful steps. I've taken notes and I am going to implement it beautifully in my marriage. My husband and I, we have put in a lot of effort to ensure that we are very happy. But once in a while, one drops the ball, and it sometimes becomes too difficult for us to regroup again in order for us to move forward. My question to you is that what are some of the practical steps that you will recommend for young couples? We are just 2 years of marriage, in order for them to build a solid decision making system in their homes.
Thank you so much. One of the things we will say you should do is listen again to the presentation when it is posted because there's a lot you'll find in it, especially about what you can do to make your decision, to take better decisions. And just to recap for those who came later, you know, 7 things to consider. First, ask yourself what you really want. You know, why do we really want to do this? Or is it really what I want? Then ask for advice. That's number 2. Third, question your motives. Why do I want to do this? Why do I want, this decision taken? The fourth point is weigh the pros and cons. Plus, minus. If we do this, this is the consequence. If we don't do it, this is the consequence. Weigh that. And then, fifth, look at the choices. Therefore, what shall we do? Look at the choices. And beware of being so emotionally wrapped up that you don't think straight, And in the process, also, listen to each other carefully. Listen to each other carefully, And then ask yourself whether this decision will be hurting yourself or others. Will this decision hurt me or others? Remembering that the consequence could be lifelong. And then the final point is, how will this decision improve the way we want our lives to be? How will this decision improve the way our lives should be? As a young couple, we will say, develop a habit, bring me and everything. Create that environment in your relationship. And even for the older ones, we can create it if we haven't done so. Learn to share. The more we share, the less we will be surprised by differences because we will already know it. And the less those differences will become a hindrance. So learn to create the environment in which either partner can share their ideas, their worries, their joys, their misgivings, and to contribute freely without whatever they say being used against them later on, in the relationship. Thank you so much.
All right.
Please, I also have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Somebody's on the line.
Go ahead.
Okay. Please, my question is more with regards to understanding some of our family dynamics in terms of, where we come from, maybe from the African continent and also, realizing that where do we truly draw the line from a perspective of maybe making some decisions where it may be more pertain to you as a couple, but maybe you might see maybe an aspect of family being somewhat of a challenge one way or the other. I was just wondering if you have any light to shed on especially a point that you made that, who is it going to hurt? Or who is not going to be happy about it? Like, where do you really draw the line in your decision making? Is this something you also look at it to really cover the fact that usually people would say if you marry somebody, you've married their family? Like, where do you really draw that line?
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Great question you've asked. Because this is not only the African, you know, anywhere in the Americas, in Europe, it's not only one person. It's not only the two people who are affected by the decision. If husband and wife decide they won't visit anybody, they may end up not visiting each other's families, you know, and it might hurt them in the long run. Not only the family, not only will it damage the relationship with the families, you know, with their families, respective families, but even their families also, or even the two of them, may turn against each other in the long run. So this point about will this decision hurt others is key. This is why we actually mentioned that we should consider it, and the sometimes because of past experience, okay, well, my sister-in-law, you know, I really don't like her, or no, I'm a good Christian, so I love everybody, but my sister-in-law doesn't like me. So, you know, for her birthday, no, let's not give her a present. A card is okay, you know. But then my wife might say, wait a minute, I know my family. Everybody will be giving a present. If we don't send one, it's going to look strange, you know. That's when we put our heads together. Instead of saying, I don't care, or withdrawing, or say, okay, you do what you want, don't put my name on the parcel. No. You see, this is power game at work. No, we're not doing that. We want to take a better decision. Yes, the person may have hurt you and done everything in the past, but hey, what you will do, as the saying goes, the conspicuous absence of your parcel will speak more about you than any wrong your my sister-in-law would have done to me. In the example I've just given, this is why I listen to my wife when she says, "Wait a minute. Okay, maybe you're not interested in going to choose a parcel and all that. Okay, let me handle it." She puts her name on it, she delivers it. Okay. But what I feel inside me, I still feel. But having listened to my wife, okay, when the parcels are being announced or opened, our name is there. Even that speaks to the person who may not like me. And this is important, you know, in this regard.
And as we were discussing, we talked about a verse, a passage in the Bible, Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. It says, let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. Let each of you look out not only for his own interest, but also for the interest of others. Mm-hmm. We are a team. We are working together, and it's a total working together, considering the family, both families, how it can affect them, how we can work with them, and we talk together and we decide together what will be best. When we begin to be selfish and think of only our family and not the other family, that's where the problem comes. When you decide to only please your family, the other person will also think of how not to please them. But when you seek to please each other, first of all, the two of us are one. So the decision we are taking should be something that will be good for both of us first. The two of us come first before any other person. But we do consider everybody. Of course, there are trouble causers who will want to mess you up. So that one, you know how to decide so that you don't allow them to mess you up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you want to say something else?
Oh no, I was looking at it more from like if maybe you have potential trouble causes and stuff like where do you draw the line, But you just answered that. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, the other side.
The potential trouble causes.
Right.
That one, it is the two of you taking your decision together, of course, and seeing how best you can help each other. There are people who are just trouble causes. Whatever you do, they will find trouble for you. You don't allow them to wake you up.
Mm.
Take your decision, do your thing. And it will get to the point they will realize that they cannot manipulate you. Mm-hmm. If you give anybody the chance to manipulate you, they know it and they will do it. If you make them realize we will not be manipulated, they will not do it. They will stop.
And this is where husband and wife need to stand together as one, regardless of which side the trouble is coming from. We can speak from experience. This has helped us a lot in keeping ourselves, from much more trouble than we would have found ourselves in. And sometimes, it might be me reacting to a phone call. Yes, reacting, not responding. I'm not going to do it. Vivian might hear me say, who was that? I said, I'm not even going to tell you. I know what you say. She says, no, because we have learned to share, all manner of information. When I tell her, what she can then do is sometimes because she is not directly into it, she can then be a little more dispassionate in the contribution she'll give, Tried numerous times when somebody on my side of the family, trouble causer, wants us to do something for them, and I said, forget it, not this person. And Vivian said, you know what? I think it's going to be better if you do it. The argument ends up being with Vivian, not with the person. In the end, I might go ahead and do what the person might be asking, but whatever action will include input from Vivian. Sometimes it might be, phoning the person to talk to the person, and my wife acts as my police person. She's my security person, to make sure I don't say the wrong things. She's sitting, close enough to me as I speak on the phone, and when she senses that my voice is going higher, she signals me to lower my voice, or if I'm taking a harder line than we had discussed, she signals me. Sometimes she might even scribble me a word or two to remind me of something I should say, because we're working as a team. Other times it's from her side. Because we have learned to do that, some of the mistakes we made earlier in our marriage, now we don't make them anymore. It used to be one person, someone will go to either of us and say, I need this money, or I want you to do this for me, I want you to do this for me. And we might just go ahead and do that without, coming to terms with each other. And we realize, wait a minute, these people are using us, and what they're actually doing is driving a wedge between us. They're not even treating us as one unit, as husband and wife. Why should they only recognize my role and not my wife's role? And so sometimes what we have actually done, especially the people who say, I don't want you to tell your wife about this. I don't want you to tell your husband. Sometimes, let's just say the person wants us to give them some money. The very person who is not supposed to be told is the one who goes to hand over the money. You see, then they see, oops, what are they going to say? They won't accept the money. So my husband said I should bring you this. So already they know, they might realize, he told her. You can't hide it. And they realize, these people, they share everything. We have actually had somebody, talking to one of us, and another person comes and says, I may as well tell you, or somebody wanting to tell, me something, doesn't see me, sees my wife and says, I want to talk with Richard, but I can't see. I may as well tell you. He will tell you anyway. And the person went ahead to tell her. Now some of those very people realize we're so together, they may as well let the other person know. But we have had to learn the hard way. Yes, we did make mistakes earlier in our marriage, and some people exploited it. But yes, now we've known it's better to stand together and let everyone see, family, friends, pastor, co-workers, let everyone see you're one with your wife. They will respect you for it. So thank you for your question. Very, very good one. Great. Thank you.
Great. Any more question on the line? Is anyone else who have a question on the line? All right. So let's continue with the questions that are still pouring in. And so this one is coming from Pennsylvania, and it says that I'm a military family, and so I wanted to find out, how do you strategize in dealing with decision making when your husband is deployed? Do I just make all decisions on behalf of him because he's not around, or do I still have to find a way to get his approval on decision makings, especially in the area of the family?
This is great also, and if there's a military person online, you can chip in here. But the principle, let me put it that way, which then will feed into your practice, is this: because your husband, and sometimes it could be the wife who's deployed, because one of you will be deployed. As a couple, you need to come to, it's a decision, an agreement as to how you will take decisions in case one of you is deployed. Because it's not always that you can call right away, and talk to each other. There are fixed times for many military people on deployment when they can actually, talk with their family. And they're short. They're not, like you have a whole hour to talk or something like that, So, and you can only put so much into the time you have. So depending, you can come to an agreement on in what areas can I decide and then inform you, in what areas do I need to wait, things like that, in case there is something that I can't wait, can I go ahead, and you can see that this requires a lot of trust building before the deployment comes. You see, so you might actually practice by having some hypothetical, bring up some examples. For example, if I were on deployment and X happened, what would you decide? And then, you give your answer, have him also give you feedback. What do you think about that? If I did X, Y, Z, what do you think? Yeah, that's good. I can go along. This will give you some practice before deployment comes. And yes, once you've done that and you know the areas you can go ahead and take the decisions, it will be much easier. And then you don't have the added stress of, wow, when will I be able to talk with him or her, as the case might be sometimes, before you can make a decision. But once you have that agreement between the two of you, you are free, and actually the word is empowered. Let's use a military term. You are empowered to take the decision on behalf of the family. And, whilst we are on that, our hats off to all those on military deployment who keep us safe all around the world in these times of uncertainty and people looking to do wicked around the world. God bless you all for being away from your families and giving this sacrifice to make the rest of us safe. And if you're a military person listening, just like you are, yes, you belong to a military family. God bless you. Also, you're doing a great service to the rest of us. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much.
So, Sammy, a couple more.
Yes, a couple more. We have one here from New York, and he says that is it okay for a father to put a son's picture up in the family home and his office, and not the rest of the family in a blended family home? What do you think?
We didn't get the question properly. He said, is it right for a father to do, and then we didn't hear the rest properly.
I'm sorry. So he said, is it okay for a father to put his son's picture up in the family home and his office, and not the rest of the family in a blended family home?
Did you say
that means his son's family, his son's picture alone, and not the son's family or the rest of his own children?
Hello.
Yes, you can go ahead and answer the question directly.
Yes. So, just to clarify the question a little bit. There's a child with one mother who has not been, not the married one. There's a married person who also has two children, but the first son gets all the priority. The first child has his picture all over, and the rest of the family no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the rest of the family don't know.
No, like
it is not okay.
It is not okay. The other children.
It is not okay.
Yeah.
Everybody has a fair share. Everybody's picture should be there. Why will he favor one and not the other one? It is not okay.
So,
if that is what he
in this case, he thinks that is what he wants to do, and full stop, nothing. It's not a topic for discussion. He won't talk about it. That is what he wants to do, and that is it. He won't accept, even if I decide to put the picture. No, he won't allow it.
Okay, it's his home. If that is what he wants to do, leave him. If as you said, that's what you had decided. Whatever you say, do put in your word.
Mm-hmm.
And if he decides that whatever you say, I will not do, I'll do what I want to do, let him do it. It will come back to haunt him sometime.
Okay.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
And he needs to know that once he's got other children, the day will come when they will begin to ask, Daddy, where are our pictures? Just tell him that.
And it may not even be the children. Somebody, a very dear friend of his, or somebody he really respects, will make a comment and you'll be so ashamed.
So,
thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You too. God bless you. So,
we are going to ask our last question, and then Recap can wrap up. So the last question is actually coming from Hungary. Wow. And it says that thank you so much for sharing this food for thought with us. I have learned a lot. My husband is sitting right with me here, and we have both learned a lot. There are a lot of mistakes that we have made in the past, but listening to this show, we have taken notes, and we want to assure you that we will employ all the tidbits that you shared with us, and we will use it to build our marriage to the highest level of decision makings. Once again, thank you so much for sharing this thought with us from Hungary. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Weekend Night Live, hosted by Samuel Jacobs Abbey, where we play music, talk shows, and interviews on Be Inspired Podcast Network. Stay tuned and keep your dial on www.beinspiredpodcast.com. Don't forget to stay connected, be inspired, be unique, and be different.